So, today I am going to talk about video rental stores and why I believe they went out of business. And it's not just the simple Netflix came out and all the video stores went under. I believe it is more nuanced than that. And I want to talk about my theory as to why video stores are now extinct. And the answer might actually surprise you. Looking back, I was born in the late 80s, grew up in the 90s. I'm a millennial, and I even grew up in a small town where we didn't have a Blockbuster. In fact, I didn't even go in a Blockbuster until I was probably in my, late teens, maybe 18 or 19 when we finally got one. And I lived in a big enough place that had a Blockbuster. So we had a bunch of local video rental stores. And I can remember how exciting it was to go in there and get to look at all of the at the time VHS cases and flip them over and read about them and look at the scary horror ones that would, just looking at the boxes, give me nightmares when I was a kid, that kind of cool thing, because your imagination could create a lot. I mean, the cool thing about video stores was the front of the box was kind of like a comic book, It's that front cover page that makes you interested in looking at the comic or thinking about renting the movie. And some of these video stores are so old that, I mean, it was like, I remember one had these little keychain looking rings that hung on each box because they didn't actually have the VHS tape behind the box because people would steal those. Or also, there probably just wasn't enough room on the shelves. So if it had a little ring on it, then that meant that they had it in stock. And you would take that little ring and you'd go up to the front, you'd give it to them, and they would give you the tape and you would rent it. And you would have to rewind it, or else you would get charged extra when you returned it. It was really cool. It was like a ritual. It would be like a Friday night, and my mom would take me and my siblings, and we would go pick out a couple movies and get a pizza and go back home and get to eat food in the living room, which is so crazy because these days it's like that's the only place I eat dinner. But I mean, that was such a treat before. And so that was such an exciting part of childhood. And that even went on as I got older. It was DVDs, and I still enjoyed that. And then it started to become Blu-rays. But about that time when Blu-rays were becoming really popular was when, all of the disruption in the industry happened. And honestly, to me, it was not Netflix that really created the massive disruption that led to where we are now. From my perspective, this was when I was starting to go to a Blockbuster regularly. I was in my early 20s. Bam, a Redbox shows up at the Walgreens next to the Blockbuster. And I was like a, whatever, gold member Blockbuster. I can't even remember what it's called, but I had the special card and all that because I was renting movies. I mean, I was renting movies like almost every night. And Redbox came out. And as far as new releases go, because I mean, they didn't have old movies, they just had new releases. And it was like $1 to rent it. And it was like $5 or $6 to rent it at Blockbuster. So you can imagine what naturally happened when you're just a broke, college age person renting movies every night. You're going to go to Redbox and get the $1 movie. So I think that was the bigger disruptor. And what kind of shocked me that Blockbuster did, and I think this was the beginning of the downfall for video rental stores. I mean, Netflix had come out and you could do the mail DVD things, but honestly, I didn't know a ton of people that were doing that. They were still going to video rental stores like Blockbuster. And I think the competitive edge that somewhere like Blockbuster or other video rental stores had was that they had old movies. Like, but instead of that, they doubled down on new releases and they started like putting more new releases and having less older movies. And then they basically went and they said, like, okay, now every movie in the entire place is the same price, like $5 or $6 a rental. So now when I think they should have leaned into having the older movies, now they were charging more to rent the older movies and they were trying to push you to get the new releases. And they were trying to probably fight Redbox, if I had to guess, during all of this. And I mean, I think that's what basically led to the downfall of these stores. And outside of just the Blockbuster story, which I'm sure there's plenty of videos about like exactly what happened with Blockbuster that you could go watch. So I'm going to make this a little more general about all video rental stores because I went to other ones. We had a local grocery store that had a video rental store in there for a long time, honestly, well past Blockbuster. And so the issue is that they could have pivoted and just leaned more on classic movies that people wanted to watch, get maybe even more rare movies and old black and white movies and promote those and be like date night, rom-coms on sale, things like that. And I honestly believe movie theaters should have and should still do this sort of business model because you can't compete with new releases when you have a competitor that's putting them out for $1 a piece. And then past that, you had Netflix where it's like people didn't even have to leave their house. They could just get it in the mail and then send it back. It just kind of shocks me that maybe they did think of that and decided not to do that. Maybe they didn't think they could make enough money off of it. But like, I do believe there's a world where a place like Blockbuster and Netflix streaming could coexist. I mean, you basically offer, because now look at what we're looking at. Streaming services, they have the same 20 movies that just go to each streaming service. And it's really actually hard to find unique movies or old movies. So I think, a video rental store honestly could survive today basically by offering the personal experience of talking to someone. I remember one of my favorite things about a video store was going in and talking to the people that worked there and getting their opinions and returning a movie and telling them what I thought about it. And again, it was just so much fun to just peruse through the aisles and find something. And if there was something you wanted to rent, but it wasn't available, having to wait. Like, that's a shocking idea today, but like having to wait, and it created anticipation. And having that physical disc sitting in front of you in your house and knowing that you needed to return it made you watch it. Because now with streaming, I mean, I just put stuff on my watch list and never watch it. And I never go back to it. If I don't click on it right then, I never watch it. And so we've definitely missed out on a lot not having video rental stores. I definitely miss them a ton. It is so nice to have streaming and to be able to sit down and flip through some stuff. But it does start to feel like when you were a teenager and you were at home in the summer, you just kept going back to the refrigerator, opening it, and hoping that there was something magically new in the fridge that wasn't there before. That's kind of like what streaming is now. It's like, I mean, I'll spend 45 minutes just going to each streaming service and like, what does this one have? What does this one have? And they all have the same thing over and over. But I just like, so I don't know. There are benefits to having the streaming, but like I definitely miss going into a video store. I don't miss Redbox. Was it nice to save money at the time? Yes. But like I don't have any nostalgia for standing out in the cold and waiting in line for somebody, and then like it didn't have the title that you thought that it would have. And like I don't miss Redbox, but I do miss video stores. And there's a generation of people now who have never experienced that and never will. And I hate that for them. And, maybe there's some weird fringe nostalgia video stores still around just for people that want that fun experience. But I do think they could have survived if they had just leaned into older movies, classic movies that people love, things like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and 80s rom-coms, and especially at Halloween time, like horror movies, like, hey, come to our video store because we have every, Jason film or every Freddy Krueger film. I mean, how fun would that be for us as movie fans to do something like that? Because even like those, I mean, it's actually kind of hard to find a streaming service that has every single film from a certain franchise. So video stores could have done that. They could have like spent more time hiring employees that could recommend things and make it a really fun experience coming in. Instead, they just did all the opposite things. They started to do things that I think created probably a bad work environment for employees, because employees just started getting like they didn't care as much and it wasn't a fun experience to go in. And so these video stores, like, they were a necessity. And I don't think they realized that to survive, they needed to become an experience. And they needed to become fun, and they needed to lean into nostalgia and things like that. And I do believe if they had done that, 100% any of them, including Blockbuster, would have survived. It would still be here, and we would be treating it more like a movie theater, where movie theaters have still survived. They're barely hanging on. I think they could do a similar thing here. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. Maybe you never got to experience video stores, and or maybe you have some great stories that you can tell me about experiences you had in video stores. And definitely let me know what you miss most about them. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks.